Jeff the Talking Mongoose. The Isle of Man is a self-governing British Crown dependency in the Irish Sea, situated between England and Ireland. It is home to the TT Motor Racing and also home to Jeff the Talking Mongoose, or Dalby Spook. The story of Jeff all starts in September of 1931. The Iron family had not long moved into a small farmhouse near to Dalby. James and Margaret and their daughter Vera. James had worked as a salesman in Dougal, but when he retired, he had moved to Dalby with his wife and daughter. Here he planned to spend his retirement farming. At first, the families would hear knocking and scratching coming from the wooden panels on the farmhouse walls. They put this down to rats or mice running about behind the panels. But as the weeks went on, the family started to hear vocal voices coming from behind the panels in all the rooms. The family said that they would chat with these voices, whatever was making them. Finally, the voice introduced itself to being a mongoose born in New Delhi, India in 1852, who went by the name of Jeff. After a while, the Ivans not only heard Jeff, they also got to see him. And sometimes he would accompany the family on their shopping trips into the small town. Here he would go, but just stopping short of the town and not entering it. He would wait for the family and follow them home on the return journey. Several other people, apart from the Ivans, claimed to have heard Jeff, and two even claiming to have seen him as well. Over the time, the story of Jeff got out, and both local and British press started to flock to Dalby to write about Jeff the Talking Mongoose. Evidence of Jeff was, however, very light. There were a few foot tracks, a stain on a wall, and a few photos and a hair sample. In 1935, the famous paranormal investigator Harry Price became involved in the investigation of Jeff. At the time, his friend Richard S. Lambert was the editor for The Listener, and he had asked Price if he would go to the Isle of Man to investigate the story of Jeff. Harry Price went to the Isle of Man to investigate the case. From his investigations, he wrote the book The Haunting of Cashin Gap. Price met the family and they told him all about Jeff. Vera said Jeff was about the size of a small rat with a yellowish fur and a large bushy tail. She said that he had told her that he was an extra clever mongoose. He also told her that he was an earthbound spirit or a ghost. The Ivans told Price that Jeff had made himself at home and guarded their house. He would inform them of approach of guests or unfamiliar dogs. If they left the fire on at night, Jeff would run down the chimney, putting the fire out. Jeff also became the family cat, keeping the rat and mice population down. Although he would not kill them, he would just chase the rats and mice away from the house. He also was an alarm clock for anybody who overslept, making clashing and bang noises to wake them up if they did not if they had overslept. The Ivans would feed him biscuits, chocolate, and they would leave these on a saucer or hang them from the rafters, where he would take them when nobody was looking. He was also said to be very talkative. Jeff would bring the family dead rabbits he had caught and leave them at the door for the Ivans. But also, Jeff had a temper. He would snap and get impatient with the family. Once snapping at James when he was opening the letters and taking too long to read them, shouting, "Read it, you fat-headed gnome." One night, when Vera didn't want to sleep alone, she spent the night in her parents' room. Jeff tormented them by saying, "I will find her no matter where you hide her." The family barricaded the door to keep him out, which angered him even more. As they sat, they could see the door starting to buckle inwards at the top, as though a great force was pushing against it. Then, in the room, they could hear Jeff's voice saying, "I am coming in." At which point, a heavy pot, which was on the bedside cabinet, crashed off against the bedstead. All these happenings the family told to Harry Price, but Harry Price, however, saw none of this. And he did not, all the time he was there, see any evidence of Jeff. Checking the house, Price thought that the panels within the house aided Vera with tricking the family and using the panels to help throw her voice around the room. He left the family and went back home with samples of evidence said to be of Jeff, which the family passed on to him. There were footprints, tooth marks, and even a few hair samples. However, when Harry Price asked his friend to examine them, his friend told Price the footprints and teeth marks were not of a mongoose, and the hair sample was more than likely from a collie dog. Interestingly enough, the Ivans had a collie dog as a pet. Although Harry Price was unsuccessful of seeing or hearing Jeff the talking mongoose, other investigators of the case were more lucky, with evidence having good chats with Jeff. Jeff even passing on gossip about families and neighbours in the town and of townfolk as well. Jeff also passed on some medical advice to one of the investigators who had cut his fingers on Jeff's claws, which were poking through a crack in the ceiling, and the investigator had reached up to touch them. Jeff had warned him not to touch, but the investigator reached and touched the claws, at which point Jeff cut the fingers. Jeff then said, "I warned you, but you took no notice. Now you're cut and you are bleeding. Now you best go and wash your hands and put some ointment on so they don't get infected." Not long after Harry Price published his book, The Haunting of Cashin Gap, in 1936, the Ivans left their home. The new owner, a Mr. Graham, soon reported he had shot and killed a strange-looking creature. Although this creature was brown in colour and bigger than Jeff, this could or could not be Jeff, which he had killed. So if you ever go to the Isle of Man, you may be lucky or unlucky and meet Jeff, the talking mongoose.